I want to go to the debt ceiling because we're quickly going to that vote. It's always a tough vote for Republicans, especially when you got a narrow Republican majority in the House and no friends in the Senate, and a White House, Harry, that is refusing to even meet.
Absolutely. And I think this is a predetermined strategy by the Biden administration. They believe they have the votes in the Senate. There is no evidence that Mitch McConnell, John Thune, or any of the other Republicans are prepared to raise a fight against the Biden administration. House Speaker McCarthy has a very slim majority in the House, so he has a narrow window, and I think he possibly can delay this debt ceiling vote, but I'm not necessarily sure he can do anything substantively. I think also we should keep in mind that the debt ceiling vote in large part is kabuki theater. In other words,
because I think people hear this and they're like, well, in my life I don't just get to raise my debt ceiling, and I don't get to just say, well, I need to spend another $200,000, so I'll just raise my debt by fiat. That they have to go and try to get loans to do something like that, which is even more difficult to do right now.
I think that's correct. So technically, the debt ceiling vote allows the Treasury to go out and borrow more money that the federal government doesn't have. And so both the Republicans and the Democrats have engaged in a spending spree over the last decade or so, and now some of these chickens are coming home to roost. But with respect to raising the debt ceiling, it's far from clear when and if we need to raise the debt ceiling, because the Treasury Secretary can engage in extraordinary measures designed to put off the day of reckoning. But I think really listeners should note that we really don't have a debt ceiling crisis. We have a spending crisis, and both Republicans and Democrats have contributed to that. But I think House Speaker McCarthy is trying to do something to rein in spending, but a lot of the spending is already baked into the cake. But most presidents, getting back to President Biden, they are willing to at least negotiate around the edges, around the fringes. And they could do that, but the Biden administration doesn't want to upset its base. And so the Biden administration is signaling that any substantial cut or even a small cut in spending is simply cruel.
I think, Harry, what our audience would like to know is what should they be upset with Kevin McCarthy, or is he doing everything he can? I mean, what can he really do as Speaker to prevent just having to go down this route? I mean, he could try to get meetings, he could try to negotiate, but he can't force the president or Senate Democrats to go along with it either. So I think I want people to be fair in their criticism,
I think that's a fair point. It's important to note that Kevin McCarthy has some tools at his disposal. Number one, he can pass a bill which would allow the debt ceiling to rise in exchange for spending cuts. Okay. The problem with that, of course, is he doesn't have a lot of leverage, and the Senate is unlikely to go along. So that's the first thing that he can do. And the second thing he can do, and he's indicated a willingness to do this, is to actually negotiate with President Biden, who seems unwilling to do so.
Yeah, I mean, here he is. He says, I will go, I will negotiate, I will try to do what's best for the American people. And Biden is just ignoring the House Republicans. It's an interesting strategy that from someone who said he wanted to work across aisles, Logan, and he won't even take a meeting. He won't even take a meeting with McCarthy on this issue.